I introduce Pete Cashmore, Hans Vestberg, and Fabien Cousteau.
Let's go. Take the stairs. Take the elevator. You want to take that one? This one? We good? Alrighty. Okay.
Well,
Hello.
again. Well, since you've all heard from us in the past here today, I think the introductions we can skip. Let's get right down to the questions. Hans, when you're one of the leaders, you're the CEO of a leading telecommunications company in the world. How does expanding technology reach out to, or how can it reach out to more people? You know, you have an educational project that reaches to some of the poorest communities. How does that engage those communities?
It's a very good question, and let me start a little bit, just go back to the technology evolution we see. As I said this morning when we talked, I mean, it took 100 years to get 1 billion fixed lines in the world. Now, it took roughly 20 years and it's 5 billion mobile subscriptions. And the only thing we know for sure, that will continue. By 2017, in our projections, it's going to be roughly 9 billion mobile subscriptions. That means that people will have more than one subscription, of course. But what is more important, I think that's so important for us here, how we can spread the word, is that it's going to be 5 billion mobile broadband users. That means that we're going to triplicate the amount of people on this earth having access to internet the next 5 years. So if you have that in your hands and thinking about the transformation and how transformative technology will be in the future, and all of you sitting here, you're, as a consumer, already transformed. We are doing a lot of consumer research on how you use your phone. For 3 years ago, all of you had a feature phone. Maybe you don't even remember it, but you had. Then you spend 95% of the time on the phone to making a phone call, calling a friend, calling a business associate or something like that. And you spend 5% of sending an SMS. If you today have a smartphone, which many of you have in this room, you spend 75% of the time to actually do something else than calling your friend or your business associate. You check your mail, you're taking down content, you're checking the weather, you're blogging, you're twittering. A dramatic change in 3 years that we have seen by using smartphones. The next 5 years, the majority of everybody coming in to the internet, coming part of the inclusion, they will use a mobile phone. Because the majority of the Earth population will actually get access to the internet through it. And we're going to see transformation in any industry. And as I'm here, we're discussing how we can address many of those challenges. And I think that the speed of change that we see today is actually the slowest pace we're going to see in all the future. It will just increase in speed the technology evolution. And I think that's where I'm starting, sort of just kicking out the foundation, what you can do with technology, and then we can talk about some examples.
Before we get to that, Pete, I have a question for you. As far as you're the founder and CEO of Mashable, of course. You're also kind of an icon of the connected generation. I am maybe a little old for that demographic. I hope not. I seem to feel like I should be part of that demographic. But more importantly than that, when we hear all this bad news, for example, at 2 o'clock this morning, I heard some bad news that they've taken the oceans off the agenda. As far as the negotiations, which to me personally is quite frustrating. How can someone, any individual out there who has those frustrations and wants to be able to do something, use your platform or connect and actually do something?
So there's a few things. I think, obviously increasingly we have access to government through social media. But I would actually almost go the traditional route. You know how powerful, and this is the most bizarre thing to say at a social media panel, but I'm going to say it. Letter writing, petitioning, the traditional stuff remains incredibly powerful because we've kind of lost the art of writing the letter. So it kind of does make that impact. But yeah, you can absolutely tweet members of government now. You can absolutely form Facebook groups and start petitioning that way. There's many modern ways to do it. But it's really, I think, about coalescing on these sites. You know, an individual can do so much, but if you can form a group, you know, obviously around this conference we formed a hashtag, and people are connecting around that. And we got it. Actually, it was the #1 trending hashtag in Brazil, which is great. Which means that people who aren't here are going to see that and start digging in and listening. So it amplifies what we're doing because everyone else is suddenly seeing it. So I think it's about, you know, forming connections, forming groups that'll last over time.
I just got a little note from one of our Twitter followers, someone who's stalking us from the wild beyond, the virtual world, at George Matthew, and he's asking, what do you think can change the future that we want? I'm going to throw it out to the panel. Anyone can grab it.
It's basically a very wide question. One thing that I would like to mention, as you were speaking about social networks, I mean, we are doing a lot of research on consumers, and it's clear that one of the deepest concerns they have is sustainable development. That is coming up when you ask them what is important. And even more frightening is that 50% doesn't know what to do with it. 50%, how can I support sustainable development? And then you come back to the conversation we have here and in this room. Because if we can create groups that actually are addressing ideas, sharing ideas, improving CO2 emission by having a debate across all the borders around the world,